Welcome to Pale Blue Pod, the astronomy podcast for people who are overwhelmed by the universe but want to be its friend.
Aw, that's us. Hi, I'm Dr. Moiya McTier. I'm an astrophysicist, a folklorist, and a friend to the universe. It came to my birthday party.
No way. Okay, my half birthday's coming up, so we'll see if they show.
Did you send the invite, though?
I was going to text.
Oh, okay. No, that works.
Okay, good. They check. I'm Corinne Caputo. I'm a writer and friend to the universe. And like I said, my half birthday is coming up. So actually, it's today, the day this episode comes out.
Happy half birthday, Corinne.
Thank you.
Yay.
I think it's not actually like 365 divided by 2. It's just like 6 months from your birthday.
Yeah, and that's the better way to calculate it.
I agree.
It's like the mean versus median thing. Like, this is the better way to calculate it.
I agree.
I don't know which. I think median is usually better. That's my stance. Although it does scientifically depend on the situation.
Yeah, it's going to depend on context, but
yeah.
I always loved finding the median more than I liked finding the mean in school.
Mm-hmm.
There's something satisfying about the middle.
Agreed.
But that's why I brought us here. We are at the beautiful City Park in New Orleans, and we stopped at a cafe for beignets and coffee, and it's just a beautiful sight.
Yeah, we did. Corinne, I don't know if this is your first beignet, but I was told that on your very first one, it's good luck to blow off the powdered sugar.
Okay, I'll have to do that. I haven't had one.
Yeah.
This is powdered sugar and me don't mix. I love it, but I really am messy with most food I eat. So to give me an actually like messy food is dangerous.
Well, it's par for the course with these beignets. Like you have to get it all over you to thoroughly enjoy.
Also, when everyone's covered in powdered sugar, no one is. So that's the goal.
Right. You're so right. Well, thank you for suggesting this little outing to snack on beignets and chat about the 243rd meting of the American Astronomical Society in this beautiful city park. Aptly named Beautiful City Park. It is a very beautiful city. Like this is my first time in New Orleans. I love all the balconies everywhere. Like it just has its own charm.
I have to say,
I am thoroughly charmed.
Every photo I've seen of New Orleans before we came here feels like out of like a book or like just so specific and like not at all like cities I've lived in. So I'm loving it.
Yeah, it has its own culture. You can tell. So we are talking about the winter meeting of the AAS. The American Astronomical Society, which we covered last week, has 2 meetings every single year. One in January, which always happens over my birthday, and then one in June, which always happens just before Corinne's birthday. So I decided to come to the 243rd meeting. I got a special press pass to come to the meeting. So unfortunately, I couldn't bring Corinne with me, but I wanted to record some things like in the moment. And so throughout this episode, I'm going to be inserting some clips that I recorded just myself inside the convention center. So let's roll that clip of me walking in.
Good morning, everyone. It is definitely morning for me. It's 8:26, way earlier than any astronomer should ever have to be up, unless they are still up from observing the night before. But I am here in New Orleans, Louisiana, United States of America, walking into the 243rd American Astronomical Society conference. We have 2 conferences every year, one in summer and one in winter. The winter one is by far the biggest astronomy conference in the world. Thousands of professional and hobby astronomers coming together, and I'm about to walk into the building. I'm so excited. I will tell you what I discover.
Wow, I never thought about it. Are astronomers night people?
Yeah,
like
kind of.
I guess you kind of have to be.
Well, it does depend on what kind of astronomy you do, although I think it lends itself well to it, because if you're taking astronomy courses in college to train to be an astrophysicist, you are going to have to do labs. So if you can't stay up all night to observe, you're not going to get very far.
Oh my gosh.
But I never had to do my own observations because I used publicly available archive data.
Right.
So I didn't have to stay up all night. I just chose to.
You chose
I chose to do my data analysis at night, even though I didn't actually need the sun to be down. But there are some solar astronomers and solar physicists who have to do their stuff while the sun is up. So it depends.
Cool.
So that was me walking into this meeting. I've counted. I have actually been to 4 AAS meetings before this. And I think each of them has brought with it its own unique experience. My first one was in 2015 in Seattle. Corinne, have you been to Seattle?
No, but I want to.
We took a little excursion to see the Space Needle, which felt appropriate for our group.
Yeah.
And that was my first meeting. I presented a poster on my project to use spectral lines to determine characteristics of a kind of nearby star-forming galaxy. I say nearby, it was 250 million light years away. But that was my first AAS experience, and I was completely overwhelmed.
Sure.
And I had no idea how to make the most of the experience. But then by my second AAS in 2016, I felt like I really had it down. I remember going into that meeting feeling prepared. I was presenting a poster on an exoplanet project that I did. It was in Kissimmee, Florida, in a Gaylord Convention Center. One of the strangest hotels I've ever been in. They had like a water feature in the hotel that had actual alligators in it.
No.
Actual baby alligators in this hotel, Corinne.
Nope, I don't like that at all.
The water feature surrounded a little hut type thing, and next to the hut was an arcade. So
What?
I will always fondly remember this AAS meeting because it was my 21st birthday.
Oh my God, that is bizarrely the perfect place to be. Sorry.
My friend Tiara bought me a 6-pack of Mike's Hard Lemonade, and I played air hockey into the night.
I love that.
It was glorious. Everyone was just like coming up, strangers who I had never met but were like age appropriate came up to me, and we partied together, and it was a great time.
That's great.
That was 2016. Anytime you can like celebrate your birthday with a bunch of just like professional colleagues who also happen to be like cool people and your friends, like
that's
highly
special.
recommend.
Yeah.
My next AAS was a summer meeting. I went to the summer meeting in 2017 because I had organized a conference that was being tacked onto the meeting called Women in Astronomy.
Oh, cool.
And it was only the 4th ever Women in Astronomy conference, but I stayed for that. And then the summer meeting is so small. And
I was going to say, is the summer meeting bigger, smaller? It feels smaller.
It's much smaller and definitely has a different reputation. It's more... you don't see students there because the students are doing their internships. Like they can't go to the summer AAS meeting. And so it's a much older population and a less progressive population typically on average.
I was going to say summer, they're ready to party.
No.
Okay.
Nope, it is. That is not the move. And so I have not been to a summer AAS since.
Okay.
Yeah.
Avoiding it. Noted.
Although there is a summer AAS coming up in Alaska. And part of me is tempted just because, like, when am I going to go to Alaska?
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe
and you'd want to go in the summer.
I assume.
Well, I don't want to be in Alaska in the winter. You can do what you want, Corinne, but I don't want to be in Alaska in the winter. And then I didn't go to several AAS meetings until 2020. They held it in Hawaii, and I didn't want to miss that. I also was asked to present. This was my first time being asked to present at a AAS, and it was not my research. The National Science Foundation was putting together a little workshop on science communication, and they asked me to give a workshop on how to effectively communicate science.
Wow, this was January 2020? Mm-hmm. A good month. One of the last good ones that year.
Truly. We had no idea what was coming, and it was a beautiful time.
Oh.
This meeting, the meeting in January of 2024, which we're doing right now, apparently had the most registrants of any AAS meeting in history. This is the 243rd meeting. There were 3,481 people registered for this conference.
Whoa, that's almost half the members?
Yes.
Or maybe not. I mean, maybe not everyone there was a member. Do you have to be a member to go?
You do not have to be a member to go, but if you're not, registration is really freaking expensive. I am not a member. if I had not gotten a press pass, it would have been $1,000 for me to attend this conference.
Wow.
But I emailed the press office and I was like, I host the very popular podcast Pale Blue Pod.
Yes, and everyone listening can vouch for you. So.
And they let me go for free. It was very exciting. Yeah, that is almost half the membership. And not everyone who came was a member, but most of them were. There were several people coming from around the world. This is the biggest astronomy conference in the world every year. And this was apparently the biggest of them that has ever happened.
Cool.
Yeah, we're a bunch of nerds. All right, so now I want to kind of walk you through a conference. Have you ever been to an academic conference like this, or?
Not an academic conference. I've been to in high school, those kind of college fairs in conference centers, like at Javits Center or whatever. But I've been to, bizarrely, I had a weekend-long gig working the Fancy Foods convention that was in Maryland that year. And I was like, it's like where people kind of launch products or like existing places launch things. And it's not just fancy foods. I don't know what qualifies you as a fancy food, but I worked for a place that was like launching a line of salsa and tortilla chips, and I was like giving out samples. And I was like, sure, I will do anything for money right now.
We've been there.
Yeah.
What was the fanciest food?
I took home this like really beautiful box of chocolates because other, like kind of at the end of the conference, people, if you could even, a convention, not even a conference, there were like other people working with like just trade stuff. I got a cool water bottle and this little box of like fancy little chocolates that I never ate because they were so beautiful. And I don't live by that rule, everyone. Burn the pretty candles and eat the fancy chocolates.
Yes. Great rule.
But no, never been to an academic conference.
Okay. I mean, you can probably picture a lot of it. I'll kind of walk you through how I approach a conference or the AAS conference. So the first thing I do, my favorite part is to go to the exhibit hall. I actually recorded a little clip of me walking into this year's exhibit hall, so let's roll that.
Okay, so the most exciting part of any AAS meeting, or at least the most exciting official part of any AAS meeting, is the exhibit hall. And I am currently standing in a mass of people, I'm masked, don't worry, in a mass of people waiting outside the exhibit hall because we plebs are not allowed in until 9 a.m. That way the people who are presenting in the exhibit hall can set up their posters. When I first started coming to AAS meetings in 2015, all of the posters were on paper, or if you were fancy, like me one year, you printed it on fabric, and that was really exciting. But apparently, AAS has moved into the 21st century, and all of the posters this year are digital. I have not actually experienced one of these digital posters yet. They were an experiment at the last AAS meeting I went to, which was in 2020 in Hawaii. And I'm excited to go see it. I have a mentee who's here, Emma Kleiner. I'm going to see if I can talk to her about her poster, and so I'm going to go see it. But also in the exhibit hall are booths from sponsors of AAS. So there's all of the big organizations, SETI, AAS itself, NASA, the National Science Foundation, or NSF, and they all have swag. So I remember when I was a wee little astro person in training coming to my first AAS meetings, I would scour the exhibit hall for the best swag. And I'm kind of near the end of the week, so we'll see if there's anything left. But I'm excited to be let in. We have 4 minutes, and there's going to be a rush. I can already see the energy forming. I'll let you know how it goes.
Different observatories have booths, and also just like different companies. There are press people there. There's something called Startorialist, which is fashion and space.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
Emily and
yeah.
Who is the other woman? Summer. They were both on astronaut training at different times.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So you're familiar with Startorialist.
Yeah. So what did you do in the exhibit hall?
I mostly just walked around because here's a picture that I actually took standing above the exhibit hall, because they had these, the convention center was huge and strangely organized. So there were these walkways above the exhibit hall that you could look down from.
Ooh, cool.
And so over there you can see the walls of posters. When I started coming to these meetings in 2015, I carried a paper poster.
Yeah.
And now they're all digital, Corinne. So you can go, and they're not touchscreen, but you can like interact with them, which means the posters people are designing now are very different from the types of posters I was designing, because you can add in extra text, you can have an animation in it, you can have hyperlinks. Like,
cool.
The kids are living in a totally different time.
Yeah, I did data entry temp at a research hospital. Oh my God, I'm just going to list every insane job I've had. And they were always printing posters for their various presentations. And they had these huge printers, or at least really long printers, so that you could print on one poster sheet.
Yeah. And it used to be that you had to get to the exhibit hall at 8 a.m. before anyone else was allowed in. And you had to go to your specific part of these walls that they would put up, these temporary barriers, and you had to tack your thing to the wall, and it had to be a specific size. If it was too big, I've seen people cut their posters because they were too big and they were taking up the other person's space
area
next to them. I've seen people who accidentally printed them too small.
Oh.
It's so sad, but they don't have to do that anymore. They upload their digital one before the conference starts, and then it's automatically put on the screen for them. There are all of these monitors.
That's awesome.
Lined up. So that's the poster section over there. If you look back there, Corinne, in this picture, they have a little concession area. Apparently you could go and buy alligator hot dogs because we're in New Orleans. I did not have an alligator hot dog.
It was made of alligator. It didn't look like an alligator.
No, it was made of alligator. This is what I have heard. I did not experience the alligator hot dog myself.
I think alligators are running theme at this conference. At least for you.
At least for me. If Moiya's at a AAS, there's going to be some gators. There's going to be
an alligator there.
It's just because I only apparently go to AASs in the South.
Yeah, that could be it.
Oh, it's a ripoff. The food in the exhibit hall is so expensive.
I'm sure.
Every once in a while, they will put out free coffee or something.
Yeah.
And then over here, most of the exhibit hall is the exhibitor booths. So those will be people who sponsored AAS. There are a bunch of the different observatories. I actually got this nice little squishy stress toy. It's a glow-in-the-dark star. Here, you can play with that. It's a good squish.
Yeah.
They also have some of the big kind of defense contracting companies, Northrop Grumman is here, Ball Aerospace is here, and they are trying to recruit people, people who want to leave research and go into quote unquote industry, just other sectors. They are also at the conference. And so it's a real mix when you're walking up and down these aisles, because one minute you're oh, SETI, I love you guys. And then you're oh, Startorialist, let me buy a beautiful ring. I actually bought 2 rings. I bought one that has the moon phases and one that has a little eclipse on it to celebrate the upcoming North American eclipse. And then you're you walk past a company that
the defense
builds drones, you know?
Yeah.
And it's a whiplash for sure.
Totally.
So that is the exhibit hall. I tried to walk up and down all of the posters, but there are just too many to see. I also saw some job postings. So I have a clip here in case anyone's wondering what types of jobs are advertised here.
It is too easy to lose track of time in the AAS exhibit hall. I lost an hour. I think I talked to 3 people at their posters, and an hour had gone by. I have been to a couple of talks by my friends, and now I am wandering again through the exhibit hall. So I went to the Startorialist booth, I visited the SETI booth, and I got to see some old friends from when I hosted the SETI Awards back in September. And I am now looking at the several rows worth of job listings. This is something that apparently is staying old school at AAS. It is hanging pieces of paper tacked to standing boards. So they have all sorts of job listings for tenure track positions at different universities. They have management positions listed, some non-tenure faculty positions. There are some postdocs, some I'm not seeing any science communication job offerings, and you all know that is what I am looking for. So I see management, I see scientific/technical staff, engineering. Oh, look at this other section. What's in the other section? These are interns, these are lecturers. Okay, so these are the types of jobs that you can expect to find posted at the American Astronomical Society meeting. If you want to become a tenured professor, this is where you go to apply.
So that's the exhibit hall. And honestly, I spend most of my time there. There was this space in the exhibit hall called the Rainbow Village that I could just sit in. And that was put on by the Committee on the Status of Minorities in Astronomy, the CSMA, which we talked about last week. Actually, let's talk a little bit about just like diversity and culture here at this meeting. Because I've been coming to AASs long enough and I've been in the field long enough that I've really seen the culture shift. I've seen the culture shift away from having the physics GRE be used in grad school admissions. I've seen some departments shift towards having more interviews in their admissions and hiring practices. And I've seen at least some progress in like diversity, equity, and inclusion and accessibility, in part because of the tremendous work of people like Dr. Nicole Cabrera-Salazar, Ashley Walker, Leah Corrales, Caprice Phillips, people who are in CSMA and the Black in Astro movement. So I talked to some of them, but I also saw other things around the conference that hinted at a more inclusive atmosphere. So let's play this clip here.
I have been coming to AAS since 2015. I have been to probably like 5 of them, maybe 6 of them by now. And this is by far the most like inclusive, intentionally diversity encouraging AAS I've been to. They have these big stands in the middle of the exhibit hall that have the names and titles of all of the people on different working groups and committees within the AAS or the American Astronomical Society. And a lot of them are serving marginalized or underrepresented groups. So we have the Committee on the Status of Minorities in Astronomy. I was actually on the board of that a few years ago. Committee on the Status of Women in Astronomy. There's one for the Committee for the Protection of Astronomy and Space and the Environment. There's one for queer folks. It's called Sigma. There are actually too many for me to read on this little stand right now. So that's really nice to see. I've also heard that in the exhibit hall, there's something called the Rainbow Village for the first time ever, which is a gathering place for people of color who are coming to the conference to network, to relax. There have been some people taking naps there, which is beautiful because self-care and napping is an amazing form of resistance. So I'm excited to get into the Rainbow Village, and I'm just going to keep walking around AAS and reporting what I see.
And those things are just like not even inside the exhibit hall. They're in the main entrance to the lobby.
Yeah,
like
that does make it immediately feel like a much more welcoming place than I imagine these conferences are like can feel. I feel like conferences in general can feel like stiff and professional in a way that is exclusionary.
Exactly, especially when it's such a like male-dominated field, and it's a huge conference. There are thousands of people walking through this space. You can easily feel kind of anonymous and unvalued. But I'm glad that they're putting at least these small things, honestly, in place at the conference. And then outside of the exhibit hall in this lobby space is where all of the talks happen. So there are, honestly, like 20 different talks happening at one time. Last week, we talked about the very first meetings of the AAS and how there were like 19 papers presented at that first meeting. Truly, I cannot count the number of papers. They have an app for the conference, so you can go through and schedule all of the sessions you're going to attend. But at any given time, there is a whole session on like exoplanet atmospheres, and one on galaxy mergers, and one on star evolution simulators. Like there are so many different types of things happening at once that it's hard to be a well-rounded astronomer these days, like it was when the society first started. You can't go to everything. And so I went to the talks of my friends.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's too, like, the choice paralysis is real.
Totally.
And so I went to a couple talks by my friends, and I did meet up with some of them, and I interviewed some of them, and I'll get to that after this episode's break. But let's just, like, talk more about what you can see at AAS. So there are all of these talks. Many of them will be researchers who get 5 minutes. 5 minutes to talk in one session that has 10 talks. So an hour-long session, 10 5-minute talks. Then there are some sessions that are dedicated to dissertation talks. So these are people who are just about to or have recently defended their PhD dissertations, and they get 20 minutes to talk. A big jump. I think it's like 15 plus 5 for questions, but they get a 20-minute chunk. And then there are press releases that the AAS has decided are loud and splashy enough findings to get a special session with press there. A lot of these are like exoplanets, gravitational waves, the kind of big findings that everyone cares about. A lot of JWST research gets press releases there. There are also town halls. So like the National Science Foundation, the National Radio Astronomy Observatory, and all of these different like big groups, they have town halls where they will present like what they're doing and then invite feedback from the community, feedback and questions. There are meet and greets for a lot of these, especially like identity-based committees. So I went to the meet and greet this week for the Committee on the Status of Minorities in Astronomy. There are actually so many of us now, so many Black and brown astronomers and so many allies coming to that meet and greet that we had to book out like a separate restaurant away from the convention center.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, which is really beautiful. And then they have some like other activities that they put on. So there's an open mic where people, like astronomers, sign up to perform, which is amazing.
That's
There's
really
a wide
fun.
range of talents. It's essentially the astronomy talent show.
Yeah.
There's an astronomy, or at least this year, there was an Astronomy on Tap show. Astronomy on Tap does informal science talks in bars. So there was one of those. And they have a reception to open and close the meeting. At the closing reception, they raffled off a lot of items. We were standing there for like 30 minutes while they were just listing raffle winners. It was a long time. But
That
the
is long.
food was really good. The best food I have ever had at a AAS meeting reception, because we were in New Orleans. They had risotto that they like made in a cheese wheel. I've never seen something like that at a AAS meeting.
I feel like I've seen that on TikTok.
Yeah, that's too fancy for AAS. But now I only want to go to AAS's in New Orleans.
Yeah, of course.
And that is typically how I move through the week at a conference. I spend most of my time at the exhibit halls. I'll pick a few content talks that I'm interested in. Like I will go to some exoplanet talks and some galaxy evolution because that's what I'm interested in. But I mostly just hang out with my friends.
Yeah, that's kind of the point.
Yeah, exactly. That's my top priority. And at the end of this episode, I'm going to give you some advice for any students who are trying to figure out how to navigate a conference. Spoiler alert, one of my pieces of advice is that the people are way more important.
Yeah.
Like the connections.
Hey friends, it's Moiya here. Corinne is off chasing some butterflies, so I wanted to take a minute to thank our patrons who support the show every single month. Thank you so much to our Sun-like stars, Sharn Llewellyn, Lissa, Scott Reynolds, Ian O'Leary, and Tom T. I love how long that list is getting. You are all amazing with your perfect gravitational field and level of radiation. You're just hitting the right spot. You too can support us. You can hear your name on the show and make it to our patron star chart if you are not already there, all by supporting us on Patreon for just about $1 per episode. If you sign up for an annual membership, you actually end up getting a 13% discount across the entire year. That's 1% for every constellation along the ecliptic. And that's good for you because you pay less money. That's good for us because we can rely on more consistent support. You can find our
star chart and Patreon info and more at our website, palebluepod.com. But if you already know you can and want to support us financially, please head straight to patreon.com/palebluepod. If you become a patron, you also get research notes for every single episode. I provide extra links to readings, videos, anything that can clarify some topic we touched on in the episode but didn't get to really explore. Of course, if you can't support us financially, that's totally fine. We understand. You're still space. You can support the show in other ways. You can review and rate the show on whatever podcast app you use. You can also share the show with your friends. That is the actual best way to help a show grow. So thank you. All right, I have a recommendation for you. It's a podcast in the Multitude Collective, and it is Big Game Hunger. This is a weekly comedy show where Jenna Stieber and friends craft the next big video game every episode. She starts with a randomly generated genre, concept, and vibe. She rolls dice. It's very cute. And then Jenna and a variety of funny and game-obsessed guests will take these ideas far enough that they can pitch it to a shadowy board of rich investors. And by the end of the episode, they'll have honed an IP so irresistible that you'll totally be willing to risk $25 for it on Steam. So get ready to laugh about games you love, learn about game trends, and yearn for titles that will surely never make their release date. I went on Big Game Hunger, and together Jenna and I created a video game called The Beatles Awakening. And it was actually set or inspired by a world that we built together on my other podcast, Exolore. So if you want to start with a familiar voice, check out The Beatles Awakening on Big Game Hunger. New episodes of Big Game Hunger come out every Monday. Okay, before we get back to the episode, I have a personal plug. I am teaching a 4-part lecture series for Atlas Obscura about eclipses to prepare for this year's upcoming total solar eclipse on April 8th. Every lecture is going to focus on a different aspect of eclipses. That could be the science of sun, earth, and moon formation. It could be the myths about eclipses. It could be the different science projects that researchers have been able to do thanks to eclipses. Classes start Thursday, February 15th, and then it's one lecture per Thursday for 4 weeks. Tickets are around $75 per person, but Atlas Obscura has a sliding fee scale. I don't want costs to be prohibitive, so let me know if that's going to be an issue. You can get your tickets at atlasobscura.com/experiences/solar eclipse course, or more easily at the link in this episode's description. I would love to see a bunch of you there in the digital lecture hall. Again, that's Atlas Obscura class on eclipses. All right, Corinne is a little winded. She's been chasing a lot of butterflies, but let's get back to this episode. I did primarily I went to this conference to see friends, but I also went to stay afloat in this field to make sure that I am not getting too distant from the latest astronomy research. So I interviewed a couple of the people that I ran into. First, I want to share this clip of a chat I had with Ashley Walker. She is an astrochemist. She is an organizer in the community. I don't want to say too much more. Let's just roll the clip.
Yay.
I'm here with one of my good friends, Ashley Walker. Can you tell us who you are and where you're at these days?
Yes, my name is Ashley Walker. My pronouns are she, they, and I'm at Howard University.
Yeah, you are. You are also the founder of Black in Astro. Can you tell my listeners what that is?
Yeah, Black in Astro is a grassroots organization that is support to Black people around the world. Whether you're a space writer, an actress that loves space, a space lawyer, an astrophysicist, we're here to support you.
I love it. Oh, and you do so many things. I can't even list them all. I am standing with you here at the Rainbow Village. What brought this about, and how has it been useful during this conference?
The Rainbow Village was created by Dr. Nicole Cabrera Salazar because she felt like there was a need to bring all of the communities, that organizations such as Vanguard STEM, LUMA, CSMA, Movement Consultant, all together, and also Black in Astro, all together, to make sure that we can support each other and have a place of rest and just be ourselves.
It's been so important. I've only been here for the day, but I've seen people napping here. I've seen people lounging and doing work. It seems like a really valuable space. Anything else you want our listeners to know about you and your work?
Yeah, so right now I'm working on ice giant atmospheres. And so I look at their clouds, their hazes. We want to know a little bit more about what's happening up in the upper atmosphere of Neptune and Uranus.
Amazing. And where can people find you on the interwebs if they want to follow along with your work?
I'm at that_astro_chick without the K on all socials.
And those links are in the episode description. Ashley, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So, listeners, I couldn't even scratch the surface of all of the stuff that Ashley does, but I highly recommend that you follow Ashley to hear about her astrochemistry work she does with Titan, which is one of the moons around Saturn, and also other outer bodies in the solar system, like Uranus. And she is the founder of Black in Astro. So follow Black in Astro on socials and look out for Black Space Week, which they do every summer, usually in June or July. And you can learn some of the things that people in this field are doing to make it more equitable and welcoming.
That's great.
I also got to meet up with one of my mentees. I have known Emma Kleiner since she was in high school. I came to speak at her high school research symposium program back in like 2018 or something, and she has since gone on. She graduated from college. She's doing a post-bac program, so she's doing research, but she's not in a PhD program yet, and she eventually wants to get into space law. It was just really exciting to see her and go to her poster.
Cool.
I felt very proud. So afterwards, I caught up with her, and here is what she had to say about her research.
I am here with Emma Kleiner, who is one of my mentees and friends, and also a talented researcher. I'm learning about her poster, so let's just hear all about it. Emma, who are you?
Hello, I'm Emma Kleiner. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I'm currently a post-baccalaureate at NASA Goddard Space Flight Center, and I just applied to PhD programs. So, hello.
Yay, that's so exciting. Okay, Emma, can you tell us about this research that you're presenting in this poster?
Yeah, so this is just some new preliminary research with JWST and Cosmos Web. So we're looking at possibly misidentified starburst galaxies at cosmic noon, that now we can resolve the morphology of these previously clumpy, unresolved, oversaturated galaxies with the new JWST data.
Can you explain what cosmic noon is for our listeners?
Cosmic noon is really exciting. It's from redshifts 1 to 3, so that's decently far back in our history. And it was one of the more exciting epochs of our universe's evolution, where there was a lot of higher star forming rates in galaxies.
Very exciting. Okay, so what did you find in this research project?
So this research project is really cool because we know that James Webb is groundbreaking for a lot of different studies. So we were hoping that by looking at this exciting point in time and looking at starbursting galaxies, or galaxies that have a lot of star formation happening, that we could maybe resolve if these previously identified isolated starburst galaxies are in fact merging galaxies, or two different galaxies that were identified as one. So we found that with ground-based Subaru data from the Cosmos 2020 dataset, that there was about 36 previously maybe identifiable merging galaxies, but now with JWST, they're out of a sample size of 87 galaxies for now, that there's 68 newly identifiable merging galaxies. So that's a pretty significant increase in mergers.
You almost doubled them. And how can people help with this research? Because I'm very excited about the fact that this is something people can get involved with. So can you tell us why that's necessary and how people can join up?
Yeah, so I was using NearCam and creating RGB images with ground-based and JWST data, and just by eye classifying what I would identify as a merging feature or non-merging feature. But that's harder than it seems. And for just me doing it by myself, that's sort of a very small sample size. So what would help is getting more and more people to, be able to go themselves and be able to identify merging features. What would you consider to be a merger or not a merger in this sample? And the more people, the more statistically sound a result we can have. So I can say a lot of people thought that this galaxy is a merger. That most likely means if we have like 95% of the people looking at it say it is, then most likely it might be a merger. Showing that this preliminary result that I've done that shows that there's an increase in the amount of mergers that were identified as starburst galaxies at cosmic noon. If we have more and more people contributing to this sample, then it's more and more likely that this data is true, which would in turn unveil the drivers of galaxy growth and possibly result in the importance of mergers to be brought into light.
Oh, I love that. And you have turned this into a citizen science project on Zooniverse. The link is down in the episode description for anyone who wants to get involved. But can you tell them like what you would be asking them to do?
Hopefully we'll create a training, so you'll go through to Zooniverse, and then we're going to tell you what would be an identifiable feature in a merger, give you some run-through examples of what you would be looking for in the ground data and in the JWST data, and then hopefully you'll be able to browse through however many sample galaxies we have and give us your result, what you would identify each source as. And then we'll be able to compile it, and you would be contributing to really exciting James Webb science.
Yay! Thank you so much for doing this research and for chatting with me, Emma. Do you want people to follow you online?
Okay, yeah, you can follow me at astro.emma_Kleiner. It's Kleiner. I'm happy to interact with people and learn what you're excited about as well.
Yay! Thank you so much, Emma. And also the links are in the episode description. Thank you.
Okay, so to recap, Emma was using JWST data to go back and look at galaxies that we had originally categorized as starbursts. So we were like, that looks very bright. It is above this brightness threshold, so we assume that it is a galaxy that's actively forming stars. But with this new crisp imaging capability of JWST, we can look at those old galaxies and make out some finer details. So by eye, Emma has gone through and identified which of these are actually single starbursting galaxies versus pairs of galaxies that are merging. And I love that she wants to get people involved. So if you are interested in citizen science, if you want to help Emma go through this data and use your own observing powers, because a lot of astronomy data analysis is done by eye, then go to the link in this episode description. She has made it a project on Zooniverse, so you can actually help out and contribute to ongoing research. Another wild thing to me, Emma said that she got this data just a few days before she came to the conference. So she did all of this analysis and put together this poster in a few days. So major hats off to Emma.
Cool. Go Emma.
Go Emma. Oh, I'm so proud. I'm so happy that I got to see her. Getting people involved with citizen science is so important. So I'm glad she's incorporating this into her work.
Yeah.
I made a new friend at this conference, Corinne.
Yay!
I met Natasha Latouf at the Black in Astro dinner, which was open to Black and brown students and also allies. Natasha is a PhD student studying exoplanet atmospheres at NASA Goddard. And I went to her talk. I don't want to ruin anything. It's amazing. Let's just play the clip.
So my name is Natasha Latouf. My pronouns are she, her, and my institution is George Mason University, but all my work happens at the NASA Goddard Space Flight Center.
And you're a grad student?
I am a grad student. I am a GRFP fellow.
Amazing. I went to your talk today at the American Astronomical Society meeting, and it was very colorful. It was also very good science. Would you like to tell us about your talk?
Yeah, so I work on exoplanet atmospheres, so I focus primarily on the detection of what we call biosignatures like water, oxygen, as it would relate to the upcoming Habitable Worlds Observatory. So I do retrievals, what are called retrievals, to figure out, okay, can we detect these biosignatures in an atmosphere, and what would it take in order to detect them technologically and in signal or noise requirements?
Amazing. And did you develop some software for this? Is that what it was?
So I used a grid that was developed by Nick Sissimil et al. I am currently developing our own set of grids. The name is pending. You'll get to it later. And so the rest of the software is actually housed in the Planetary Spectrum Generator, which was created by Geronimo Villanueva. So we call it PSG. It has a nested sampler, and it's truly a phenomenal tool for anyone looking into planetary or exoplanetary research. It's completely customizable, and you can just make your own models without from the comfort of a website. Planetary Spectrum Generator.
Okay. And if people wanted to find this grid, what would they search for? What is it called?
That is a phenomenal question, Moiya. So the project is called Bayesian Analysis of Remote Biosignature Identification on ExoEarth, but that's really long and hard to say. So you can just look up the Barbie project and keep an eye out for Barbie 3, where we are introducing the brand new Ken grids. And don't you all worry, you'll be able to find both Barbie and Ken in the Dream House, I'm not kidding, which will be a website where you can find all of the data and all of the grids. I'm not entirely sure that my advisors know it's going to be called the Dream House yet, but they'll figure it out eventually.
They'll figure it out, and we know. So I'm going to get the links from you, and I'm going to put those in the episode description. But Natasha Latouf, thank you so much for creating Barbie. Can you tell the listeners about your outfit that you wore to give the talk?
Oh my goodness, I'd love to. So listen, everybody, I got these pair of pink pants. I bought the pink pants before I made the presentation. So I grabbed the hex code of the pink pants from the Abercrombie website, and then used that hex code as the background color for my talk, and then grabbed that hex code and made an entire palette, and then made all of the plots in my talk and in my paper based off of that hex code. So if you're thinking, wow, that sounds like a lot of work, it was, but also it's gorgeous and it's bubblegum pink. Look for the Barbie bubblegum pink posters and talks. You'll find me there.
And that type of identifiability at the AAS conference, so valuable. I thoroughly enjoyed your talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Moiya. Very nice to meet you and see you.
Yay.
Oh my gosh. Pink top to bottom. Wait, that's so fun. I love that. Talk about brand marketing.
Right? I think you would really get along with Natasha.
Oh,
Corinne.
I love it. Now I want a pink jumpsuit.
Yeah. We can get the hex code from Natasha, and then we can all be Barbies. But just to recap what Natasha's talk was about, so she put together something called Barbie, which is an acronym that stands for Bayesian Analysis for Remote Biosignature Identification on ExoEarths. That is a mouthful, so it makes sense that she's calling it Barbie. And I love that she's also incorporating Ken. There's going to be a Ken in the model. Altogether, this suite of models might be called the Dream House. Oh, Natasha.
That's amazing.
I love you. So this is... If I say the term parameter space, does that mean anything to you?
Not really.
Okay, I get that. So a parameter space is like this abstract space of different coefficients, essentially. If you are trying to test one of your model might test like a planet's size and its atmosphere composition and how far away it is from its star. And all of those three things are parameters. And then you can imagine this abstract space that is full of all of the possible values of those parameters. Okay, cool. So when Natasha said in that interview that she's using a nested sampler, what that means is that she's using probability statistics to jump around parameter space in her model and go towards the most likely spaces in that parameter space. And she does that by splitting the parameter space up into a grid, and the model can jump from one box to another in the grid. And if the jump is more likely, if you jump to a new grid and you perform the likelihood calculation and it's more likely in this new box, then you're going in the right direction. If it's less likely in that new box, then you're going to jump back and try a different direction. And that's a type of modeling that is very common in astrophysics, because what you're essentially doing is establishing this grid of model parameters that let you compare your observations to those parameters to figure out what is the most likely value for each parameter.
Okay.
Did that actually make sense?
I think I loosely understand, but I could never do it or explain it to somebody else.
Barbie is this grid of models, and it's essentially like a digital representation of every possible type of planet. Okay. And when we have observations, we can compare those observations of the real planet to this whole grid to figure out which spot on the grid is the most likely model.
It falls. I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I get it.
Yeah, and so she's doing this to try and find habitable planets. And the data she's comparing is spectroscopic data about particular molecules that we call biosignatures because we think they're associated with life.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a very cool project. I also went to another talk by Caprice Phillips, who is, I think she's the vice president of Black and Astro, but she talked about how spectroscopy can help us find intermediate mass brown dwarfs. Brown dwarfs are like the link between planets and stars because they are heavier than planets. They're heavier than Jupiter, so they're doing like a weird type of fusion, but they are not quite at the main sequence stars, so they're not fusing hydrogen into helium. They're doing a different type. I also saw a very cool poster by Amy Steele, who is the director of astronomy at Yerkes Observatory, home of the very first AAS meeting, back before it was called AAS. I, full transparency, applied for that position and could not think of a better person to get the job.
Yeah.
Like she's brilliant. She has an amazing organizational mind. She is kind and empathetic. Like she is a much better fit for that role than I am.
Yeah.
And it was really nice to see her at the meeting this week. She had a poster on polluted white dwarfs because in addition to being the director of this observatory, she's also doing her own research because she is badass like that.
Get it, girl.
I had never heard of polluted white dwarfs before. This is a way for us to examine the composition of planets, actually. So white dwarfs are like the end stage of stars like our sun. And because they've burned through all of their fuel, they're basically just husks of hydrogen and or helium left over. They're like pretty pure in that composition. But if you have planets that have survived in that system and are now breaking apart, they're going to fall onto the white dwarf and get some of their material mixed up in the white dwarf's atmosphere. Okay. So we can actually study the new composition of this, quote, polluted white dwarf to figure out what the composition of the planets would have been. And that gives us insight into these late evolutionary stages of these systems because, like, we don't know necessarily what's going to happen when the sun goes into its red giant phase before it becomes a white dwarf. So exciting stuff.
That is cool.
And this is a poster. This isn't even a talk. This is what I'm saying. Like, there's something awesome and groundbreaking everywhere you look.
Yeah, it feels that way, and I wasn't there.
Yes. I went to my friend Will Walks's talk on the importance of understanding sunspots and magnetic activity in stars if you're going to be looking for transiting exoplanets, because we study those exoplanets by looking at the light curves, like the dip in brightness as they pass in front of the star. But what if the star has dark sunspots? That could artificially contribute to the depth and make us think that the planet is bigger than it is.
Cool.
The last thing I learned at the AAS, I hinted at this last week, the AAS's historical division has made an academic genealogy project that you can access if you go to astrogen.aas.org. And the goal for this project is to list as many as possible of the world's astronomers and their doctoral theses with their academic parents or their thesis advisors.
Oh, cool.
So it's like an academic family tree. And I looked myself up and it's like, yes, Moiya McTier was advised by David Matthew Kipping. And to our knowledge, she has no students. And it's really cool because you can zoom out and like see the whole tree. I'm going to spend so much time on this.
That's such a fun way to represent that and capture that history. I love that.
Because we talk about it all the time as our family tree. Like I have talked about my academic grandfathers.
Yeah. It feels like on Drag Race when they talk about the houses they come from. Or like...
Like you have to know your lineage.
Yes.
And Some people just have one advisor that they've worked with if they like stayed undergrad, grad school working with the same person. You can have up to like 6. So David Kipping was my primary grad school thesis advisor. But if you want to get broader than that, I had 3 other people who helped me with my dissertation. I had Katherine Johnston, I had Keith Hawkins, I had Kate Daniels. They all helped me with my PhD dissertation. You could also go back to undergrad. My undergrad advisor was John Johnson. So I have like 5 academic parents.
Yeah.
The family tree can get complicated fast.
Yeah. Dashed lines, blue lines, red lines. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyone, I recommend going and checking that out. It's fun to play around with if you know any academics. But that's what I learned. Corinne, you sent me in, because we couldn't get a press pass for you, you sent me in with a little scavenger hunt.
I did. I wrote some silly things on there. And I'm curious what you found.
I brought some things back.
Okay. I did ask for the funniest paper title.
Yeah. Papers and talks, like I could not go through all of them. So I did some browsing in the poster section, and I found 2. One, and this is typically how the structure, there's like a funny pre-title, and then there's like the actual science title. So one of them was, Am I Loopy? Using ALMA to constrain radially dependent turbulence in the IM loop protoplanetary disk. That is by Barrett Olson, who I didn't get to talk to, but if you're listening, hello.
That's
and thanks,
fun.
Thanks for that title. Am I Loopy?
Am I Loopy? I love that.
And then another one I saw that I liked was The Road Not Taken, Why do only some major galaxy mergers host OH megamasers? And that's by Haley Roberts. The Road Not Taken. I was drawn in immediately.
Yeah, I'm in.
I actually meant to go back and interview her about this project, but I didn't get a chance to. I really loved this because Haley came to AAS not with an answer. Most people come to these presentations and they're like, this is what I have found in my research. Listen to me. Haley came with a question. She like, the title is genuine. She wants to know why only some of these mergers have these megamasers. And she was actively seeking input from other people coming by. And that is an underutilized function of these conferences, I think.
Yeah, I like that. Facilitated convo.
Yeah. Those were the funniest that I saw.
I love it. I was curious what the longest paper title was, because in our games, when I guess if it's research or not, some of those get very long.
Yes. You know, there were so many.
And what are you going to do? Many. Count them up? Yeah.
Exactly. So instead, what I found for you, Corinne, was some very fun acronyms.
Yes, that's such a good point. Those are the more surprising elements to these titles.
I took a picture of them. Let me see if I can find it. Yes. So one of them was the acronym DRAGONS.
Dragon.
It's DRAGN, and it stands for Double Radio, lowercase, sources associated with active galactic nuclei. Dragons.
Yep, I buy it. Okay.
And then, Corinne, are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Radiohead.
Radiohead. Okay.
Radiohead. Radio wave, where you're just taking the whole word radio from the word radio wave. And then hunt, lowercase, for young stellar object, emission, and demographics.
For the A of N to get its own letter is so funny.
I know.
That's really good. You gotta get creative.
I saw that and I was like, how?
That is making me excited for Barbie, because I do feel like Barbie was a little like faster. Like I got it.
Yeah, because it's like every word and not something. At least there are no capitalizations in like the middle of words.
Totally.
In
Yes.
this one.
That I've always been uncomfortable with that one. Did you meet any pals or other fellow SciComm or influencers you want to plug?
Yes. I knew all of these people beforehand, and one of them I met in person for the first time. So the first is Dr. Nicole Cabrera Salazar. She is currently the chair of the Committee for the Status of Minorities in Astronomy, but she is stepping down. She's been the chair for something like 5 years. She's been on the committee for like 8 or 9 years or something like that. She has really taken the committee in like its great progressive direction, but it's time for new leadership. She also has a lot of other stuff going on. She is the founder of Movement Consulting, which among other things helps academic departments become safe spaces for marginalized students. So she is the kind of like private consulting alternative to the AAS's site visits. I highly recommend that departments invite Nicole in because she knows how to take care of students. I love this woman so much. She has been so kind and supportive and comforting to me at various points in my career and life. Like, cannot say enough good things about Nicole. So I got to see her, and I wanted to plug Movement Consulting. And then I want to plug Dakota Tyler, a.k.a. DT Star Kid, if you happen to have fallen on Astronomy Talk. He's very active on social media. He did a press conference about his work on hot Jupiters that unfortunately I missed. And so I told him that he could be on Pale Blue Pod. So we're going to have him on and do like a fuller interview because Dakota's a pretty cool person. He used to play football, and then he got an injury that told him he would not play football again, and he decided to go and get a PhD in astronomy.
Oh my God, how funny. Okay, I can't wait to talk to him.
Yeah, so we'll talk to him. And I also met for the first time in person Dr. Raven Baxter, a.k.a. Dr. Raven the Science Maven. She is not an astrophysicist. Her PhD is in education, I think, and she's a molecular biologist. She is a body type of scientist. She's also a rapper and a science communicator. When COVID started, she put out a song about like washing your hands and wiping things down. So she's a force to be reckoned with in SciComm. And she's not an astronomer, but she has recently, through her company, the Science Haven, put together a program called Stellar Dreams Telescope Program. And its goal is to give 100 free telescopes to Black students in grades 5 through 12.
Cool.
I think in like the New York and DC areas primarily.
That's great.
So those are 3 influencers that I was so excited to get to like even briefly see this week.
Yeah, I'm kind of jealous. They all seem really great.
There's some cool people at these conferences, not gonna lie.
Yeah. I was thinking so much of Pale Blue Pod is specifically aimed at like making the universe less scary. And I'm curious if there were moments in the conference where that feeling came up for you, where space was overwhelming, even briefly, and like how you handled that.
Not space itself, because first of all, I feel kind of immune to that type of overwhelm by the universe. I think I've been desensitized to it, but it's also just not how I see the universe. I see the universe as like a set of data points, and that's how astronomers talk about it. So I think it would be hard for anyone actually to go to one of these conferences and feel overwhelmed, because astronomers don't talk about it in that type of awe-inspiring or fear-inspiring language. They're going to be like, the flux density from this region of the H2 spectrum is 5 millijanskis. Like, that's not...
Yeah.
That's nothing. But I was, at several points, overwhelmed by the study of space. The exhibit hall is really big. It feels impossible to see everything. There are so many talks going on, and it feels impossible because it is. Like, you genuinely cannot go to everything at this conference. And sometimes I get overwhelmed by the scholarship that exists and saddened by the fact that most of it is not going to make it out to the public.
Yeah, that would be really sad.
It's the same feeling I had when I was like 12 years old and I realized I would never be able to listen to every song ever made.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, what a specific kind of sadness. On the upside, did you have any like moments like that were comforting or very like you are space kind of feelings?
Ooh, yes, but I think in a slightly different way. It was at the CSMA meet and greet. And this is the meet and greet for Black, brown astronomers and allies. And we have been like systematically kept out of this field for so long that there aren't a lot of us still. I think in the demographics section in the last episode, it's 2% of astronomers are Black, 6% are Latinx. And yet now there are so many of us that we had to rent out a restaurant in New Orleans.
Yeah.
And there were almost too many of us to fit in that room of the restaurant. Like, it was a fire hazard when we all squished into one space for Nicole to give a speech. And it was... we end every episode here at Pale Blue Pod with "You Are Space." And I mean that for everyone, but it hits different when you're in a group of people who have been told over and over again that space is not for you. So in that moment, I was like, not only are we space, just like everyone else, but like the love and study of space is also for us.
Yeah. The chills. I love that.
And we're just growing.
And you're growing, yeah.
Yay.
Well, to turn it on a very silly note, do you have any more evidence that the moon is for the people?
Oh, yes. Okay. First of all, this is my first time in New Orleans, and I grew up listening to the song Moon Over Bourbon Street, and the moon, love her to death, but she had the nerve to be a new moon while we were here.
She would.
So I couldn't even be like, I'm on Bourbon Street with the moon over it.
Yeah, I guess we're going back.
But she is still for the people. I saw a couple of things. One was this really adorable, it was a poster presentation, about a traveling museum exhibit that's about the moon and our missions from Earth to the moon. And this exhibit goes around rural Pennsylvania, which is where I'm from. It was developed by faculty at St. Francis University. And since the spring of 2023, they've taken this mini museum to 9 different locations, like libraries and schools. And they've had over 2,000 visitors come learn about the moon, or like rather have the moon learning come to them.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So the moon is for the people, because a sun museum would be like, no, you're all coming to me.
You're going to get burned there. Yeah.
The moon museum goes to the people. There were a few different posters and talk titles about wanting to put observatories on the moon, especially from the gravitational wave people. They want an observatory on the moon. They think it's a good spot for one of the parts of LISA, which is the Laser Interferometer Space Array. So if they can put one on the moon, then it'll be very stable and it won't have like atmospheric fluctuations getting in the way. And there's also there's not seismic activity to get in the way of gravitational wave measurements, but some other people want it to be a multi-messenger observatory. So not just detecting gravitational waves, but also light and like neutrinos and other particles that we can detect. And they want to put some radio telescopes on the far side of the moon because it has access to a range of radio frequencies lower than 30 megahertz, which is like really, like you can really only get that on the other side of the moon because otherwise Earth has too much interference at that frequency. So you need the physical moon in between us to block it.
Sure.
So yeah, like the sun would not let us put observatories on it.
Never. We
sent one, and we sent the Parker Solar Probe, and it got destroyed.
So that's what happens. Yeah, stay away from the sun, everyone.
Eat the sun.
Eat the sun. Okay, I do want to ask you if you have advice for how to attend a conference like this, because it does seem massive and so cool, but like almost in like a Disneyland way of like, how do I possibly do everything strategically or at all?
Oh, that's a great comparison. Yeah, it's Disneyland for astronomers. So the first piece of advice is to pace yourself. It is a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
You should prioritize your rest. Don't let FOMO get the best of you. And like,
That's a good piece of advice.
Go like to your comfortable limits because you want to make the most out of it, but don't push yourself.
Yeah, totally.
My second piece of advice is to make a bunch of lists. make a list of people you want to meet before the conference. After every day, make a list of people you've met. Make a list of aha moments you've had. Like that can be new learnings at a talk or poster, or it can be new like personal revelations. Like, oh, I visited the Noir Lab booth and now I want to go into instrumentation. Like there are a lot of things you can discover about the universe and yourself at one of these conferences. So write it down, because it's really overwhelming. And afterwards, if you try to remember everything at once, you're going to miss stuff.
Yeah, totally.
My third piece, this might be a hot take. The posters are where it's at. If you have to choose between the talks and the posters, go to the posters. Because the talks, most of them are only 5 minutes long. So they get no information there. It's like, hi, this is what I studied. This was my big question. This was the, like, last thing I did to try and answer it, and here's the answer I have, but that's all the time, so come ask me questions.
So goodbye, yeah.
And then they're swarmed with people afterwards. Even the dissertation talks, it's like a little bit longer, but they're also swarmed afterwards. So the time when you can really interact with someone and ask them questions, that's the poster sessions. And it's not just young students presenting posters. Like I said, Amy Steele, the director of Yerkes Observatory, was presenting a poster at this conference. So I'd say prioritize that.
Yeah, that's a good piece of advice.
My last piece is that the networking is way more important than the science learning. All of the science that's going to be presented at this conference will be written down. It will either be in a paper or it will be in a apparently now digital poster that you can always access online. All of that information you can find later. But the interpersonal connections are priceless in this and any other academic field. Like I think that the time I celebrated my birthday with a bunch of like random people in the field, way more valuable than any of the talks I gave.
Yeah.
Because if you stay in the field, they're going to be your colleagues. If you don't stay in the field, they are your bridge back to it. Like, yeah.
That was so true at the film festivals I went to, too. Of, like, it's great to hear, like, other screenwriters talk and share knowledge. And I found that so valuable. But, like, hearing people talk is so different than talking to someone. And it was so lovely to just meet people in the industry. Yeah. That sounds like kind of a gross word, but it was just like, it just felt like community. You feel like it's so important to have that as a human.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be in a gross way. I think we can all discern between gross and like organic networking.
Yes,
when we experience it. As long as you're like a genuine and authentic and you don't come across as transactional, I think that like it's good. And I'd say prioritize networking with people who are like at your career level. Like definitely you want to meet other people, but the peers are so valuable. Any other thoughts, questions? How's your beignet?
Oh my God, so good. And I'm covered in sugar.
Yes, same. Let's go find some wet wipes. I think, because a regular napkin isn't going to cover it.
And I'm going to change out of my black sweater.
Yeah, that's okay. You didn't know. You didn't know.
What was I going to do?
Well, listeners, Corinne and I both blew the powdered sugar off of our first beignet. So we have good luck, and we hope you do now, too. Mm-hmm. Regardless, you are still space. You're a part of the universe.
You are. Bye.
Pale Blue Pod was created by Moiya McTier and Corinne Caputo with help from the Multitude Productions team. Our theme music is by Evan Johnston, and our cover art is by Shay McMullen. Our audio editing is handled by the incomparable Misha Stanton.
Stay in touch with us and the universe by following @PaleBluePod on Twitter and Instagram, or check out our website, palebluepod.com. We're a member of Multitude, an independent podcast collective and production studio. If you like Pale Blue Pod, you will love the other shows that live on our website at multitude.productions.
If you want to support Pale Blue Pod financially, join our community over at patreon.com/palebluepod. For just about $1 per episode, you get a shout out on one of our shows and access to director's commentary for each episode. The very best way, though, to help Pale Blue Pod grow is to share it with your friends. So send this episode, this link, to one person who you think will like it, and we will appreciate you for forever.
Thanks for listening to Pale Blue Pod. You'll hear us again next week.
Bye.